It began with the absence of traffic sounds. Every morning at 6, Elena Martinez's studio apartment above Plaza de la Solidaridad vibrated with the honking of scooters, vendors calling about churros drowned in sugar, and the municipal loudspeaker reminding citizens to compost. The chorus was so ingrained that silence struck her awake harder than her alarm. She sat up, blinking at the gray square below. The night market stalls normally struck by dawn were missing, as though carried off by a giant's invisible hand. In their place stood a structure that had not been there when she fell asleep 5 hours earlier, a pavilion of glass walls and nickel-plated ribs, glittering from within like a cut geode. Crowds arrived in trickles that quickly became streams. Elena, a postgraduate physics student who had intended to spend the morning deciphering neutrino spreadsheets, felt curiosity drag her downstairs in slippers and a cardigan. City employees erected cordons but offered no answers. No one had commissioned the thing, and no cameras had recorded its delivery. A single brushed steel plaque screwed into its entrance read in cursive English, "Mirror Maze. Enter freely and see yourself reflected true." Police drones circled, emitting bored clacks. By 8, the mayor arrived to deliver the standard "We have the situation under control" speech. By 8:30, a rumble of impatience rolled through the crowd. Someone pushed past the tape, laughter rippling in their wake, and disappeared between glass panels. The crowd cheered, anxious for spectacle. The person did not reemerge. Elena witnessed the disappearance and found her skin prickling. It wasn't rational. Perhaps the exit lay on the maze's far side, but the plaza vibrated with a subsonic warning she could not name. By 9, after 5 more entrants failed to resurface, city authorities announced a temporary ban. Too late. The first wave of explorers began stumbling out then, and their faces turned the murmur into a roar. Each exit produced 2 versions of its entrant. The doubles glided alongside their originals like synchronized swimmers, movement for movement, until they crossed the perimeter of the structure's shadow. Outside that penumbra, something shifted. Reflections and originals diverged, sometimes subtly, sometimes violently. A man in a business suit watched his counterpart saunter to a vendor and steal a coffee. A child's reflection slapped her mother. An elderly woman's double knelt to press its ear to the pavement, as though listening to the earth's heartbeat. Some doubles stared at sky or sun, dazzled, as though the concept of an above had been introduced to them only seconds prior. All afternoon, scientists, theologians, and influencers descended, setting up observation decks and ring lights. In podcasts launched on the hour, philosophers resurrected Plato's cave, Jung's shadow, and Baudrillard's simulacra. Hashtags warred. And inevitably, someone hacked the barricades. Elena watched a second wave enter and vanish. When their doubles queued out, the hypothesis solidified. The maze produced delayed reflections, versions, birthed moments behind their originals, accumulating differences until they overtook in time and space. Some duplicates were benign, others malevolent, most simply alien and perplexed. The city issued a dusk-till-dawn curfew, but the plaza seethed with illicit tours. Human beings, Elena thought, would poke a glowing meteorite with a stick before checking if it was radioactive. 2 days later, her friend Matteo arrived at her door, travel mug steaming. "Come on," he said. "The university formed a task force. We're mapping internal geometry. You game?" Elena hesitated. She had spent 48 hours feeding data to an amateur spreadsheet compiled from citizen videos, charting the lag time between entry and double materialization. The delay averaged 43 seconds, plus or minus 12. If reflections lagged behind footsteps, could a fast runner outpace her own double? Her rational mind knew such questions were childish, yet the childish part of her yearned to step into the maze and look back at herself. She put on sneakers and a windbreaker. The maze interior resembled a cathedral sculpted from prisms. Narrow corridors merged and split under skylights that filtered sun into spectral rivers. Polished floors mirrored everything again, so that up and down blurred. Elena, pressed chalk marks on joints to trace her path. But the marks vanished after minutes, wiped clean by no visible custodian. The group communicated by radio describing curvatures that seemed inconsistent. Turn right 3 times and you should loop. Yet corridors unfolded forward as though stretching in real time. At the central chamber, the ceiling rose into an oculus. A dais held an antique cheval mirror framed in bronze vines. Unlike the surrounding glass, its surface appeared liquid. Clouds floated inside. Winds rippled the silver. Matteo, camera raised, circled it. "Notice the delay," he murmured. They waved at their reflections. Elena's hand lifted. The reflection's hand lifted a heartbeat later. When she dropped her arm, the copy remained suspended, lagging, until the next motion commanded it. It was as though each gesture traveled through syrup before reappearing. A queue of lagged actions accumulated inside that surface. Playing catch-up, "This is where the doubles gestate," Matteo said. Gestural debt builds until, pop, he smacked his palms. The mirror delivers a full echo. A scream fractured the hush. From a corridor came the crash of breaking glass. Radios lit with crosstalk. 2 volunteers had encountered their reflections mid-hallway mirrors without mirrors and panicked. The guide ordered immediate extraction. Matteo sighed. "Another partial manifestation," he said. "Come on." As they navigated back, Elena glimpsed something disquieting. Ahead, at a 4-ways junction, a woman strode briskly. Her silhouette matched Elena's height and posture exactly, down to the messy bun and graphite smudges on her sleeves. The woman turned left. Elena, startled, stopped. In her peripheral vision, a corridor reflected her frieze, yet the other her kept moving. It was not a reflection, it was a head start. She hurried after it. "Wait." Matteo's voice echoed behind, but curiosity throttled caution. The corridor swallowed sound. Elena's sneakers slapped glass, reverberating. Up ahead, the double's strides lengthened, yet its footfalls landed fractions ahead of hers. Impossible, like a film dubbed out of sync. With every step she took, the other, Elena, was one more step further into a future she had not performed yet. They exited the maze in disarray, task force aborted. Journalists pounced, but officials smuggled personnel to debriefing. As Elena sat in a windowless lecture hall, a notion anchored itself. If her double had overtaken her inside, was it now outside? Roaming? Living seconds or hours ahead? That night she barred her door with a chair and scarcely slept. Reports multiplied. 40 doubles had assaulted their counterparts. A few performed kindnesses, paying off student loans, confessing love on behalf of repressed originals. Most simply wandered, exploring sensation. City psychologists posited that the maze birthed them with adult motor skills but newborn minds. All appetite, little inhibition. A bill proposing the maze's demolition ricocheted through council. Structural engineers balked. No tool could scratch its walls. Thermite fizzled against them. Diamond saws chipped. Resonance frequencies delivered by sonic cannons did nothing but anger a nesting pigeon. The maze, some joked, had anchored itself to reality with bureaucratic immunity. Day 6. Elena spotted her double buying oranges at the corner grocery. It weighed each fruit with exaggerated concentration, tapping rind to ear as though detecting Morse code. Elena ducked behind a stack of cleaning supplies, blood roaring. The double's eyes, her eyes swept aisle to aisle, thoughtful, almost kind. Then it smiled, left the coins and exited. Elena followed at a safe distance. The double crossed Avenida Belgica, greeting a stray dog, sitting on a bench to watch clouds, everything slowed, deliberate. It tasted the world like sorbet. Elena experienced twin emotions, terror and pity. She remembered Plato's prisoners, blinded by daylight after leaving the cave. By sunset, she resolved to speak with it. The next morning, she found the double gazing at mannequins in a boutique window. Elena approached. "Hi," she said, palms raised as if soothing herself. "I'm Elena." The double turned. Up close, it was unmistakable. The faint scar on the chin from childhood, the same gold flecks in irises, but its expression held none of the wariness etched into Elena by 28 years of deadlines. It radiated soft wonder. "I know," the double replied, not in Spanish but flawless Catalan, which Elena barely spoke. "I am also Elena Martin." It sounded the name as a hypothesis. "You are the echo behind me." The sentence scrambled Elena's nerves. "You mean you're ahead?" The double tapped its chest. "Original steps leave after images. The after images are slow. They cling to mirrors." It pointed to Elena's shirt, as though indicating a ghost attached there. I slipped free. Their dialogue spiraled into metaphors. The double perceived time like a trail of lanterns. Each step lit one behind her. Free from the delay, she walked on unburdened. Elena struggled to map this to her own linear perception. Was she the lantern or the flame? An argument exploded nearby. A man and his duplicate quarreling over a bicycle. Police separated them. The duplicate bit an officer, then sprinted. Sirens whined. The mayor declared the plaza under indefinite lockdown. Drones armed with tasers enforced curfew. Rumors spread that a secret lab underneath the Capitol wanted to study captured doubles and figure out how to weaponize temporal offset. Hashtags mutated into "Stop Yourself" and "Future You." Elena and her double met nightly on a pedestrian bridge where wind carried voices away from mics. They developed shorthand. The double called herself Prima, meaning first. She claimed she did not age. Clocks were frames that could not bind her. She learned languages overnight by watching subtitled soaps. She slept little, roamed constantly. "I burned deviation," she explained, touching Elena's forehead. "I am your divergence collecting." Elena recorded their conversations in a diary, hiding it under floorboards. Graduate work became an afterthought. One dawn, Matteo banged on her door. "They'll round up duplicates tomorrow," he whispered. "Define round up. Camp outside town. Containment. Some want erasure." His eyes shone with moral sickness. Elena's chest tightened. "They're not viruses." "Tell that to victims." He listed incidents. A duplicate drove a bus into the river. One set fire to a bakery. Another walked a kindergarten class into traffic. "They're toddlers with adult bodies. We can't risk it." Elena's counterexample. Prima felt too fragile to expose. She inhaled. "Help me get someone out." Matteo hesitated. Friendship, she saw, might fracture here. But then he sighed. "What's the plan?" Prima accepted the escape calmly. "North," she said. "Mountains are ancient mirrors." At midnight they approached the plaza. Floodlights scythed the darkness, illuminating the maze like a spaceship. Trucks idled for tomorrow's transfer. Elena remembered the first morning's silence. Now the square bristled with technology, thermal scanners, motion mines, guards in exoskeletons. Their friend Laura, inside the task force, had disabled a section of fence for 6 minutes. Timing mattered. Prima wore Elena's spare jeans and hoodie, hood up. From a distance they formed a mirror pair. Matteo led. They crossed to an alley where hairline cracks between buildings permitted single-figure movement. Drones traversed predictable arcs. Elena had modeled them in software. They reached the fence gap. Spotlights flared. A guard shouted. Matteo cursed. The schedule had slid by 40 seconds. Elena grabbed Prima's hand and sprinted. Her heart hammered not only in fear but with eerie déjà vu. Footsteps. Delayed. Doppelgangers overtaking originals. Was she now the reflection lagging behind Prima's bold momentum? Guards closed in. Matteo veered left, waving arms to draw pursuit. A crackle of tasers and his grunt echoed. Elena's instinct screamed to help, but Prima yanked her forward with improbable strength. They vaulted a planter and ducked into the dawn-shuttered metro entrance. At the turnstiles, Prima paused. "Debt?" she whispered. "What?" "You owe sound." She cupped Elena's ear. From above drifted the echo of their last 10 seconds panting, footfalls, shouted orders, démêlés like a recording played late. The sound blew past them down the tunnel, scattering pigeons. Elena felt air ripple. The city's physics quivered. They boarded a maintenance cart stolen from a depot, riding rails north. Light strobing past vents gave the tunnel a flipbook quality. Elena checked her phone. News of duplicate detentions flooded social feeds. Matteo's name wasn't listed. She clung to that hope. Outside the city limits, they walked switchbacks into the Monsini range. Prima taught Elena to place her feet with intention, so echoes break at the knees. Frosted pines reflected moonlight, every branch a shard of night glass. At a ridge, Prima halted. "Here," she said. The mirror maze had influenced geometry in the plaza, but this clearing felt older. A natural amphitheater of schist, whose mica flakes threw back their faces in 1,000 splinters. Prima stepped atop a boulder. The shards shimmered, catching her outline. She closed her eyes, breathing a rhythm Elena recognized from childhood anxiety. Suddenly, the reflections lagged. They fell into step seconds behind Prima, leaving her alone at the center, a real body surrounded by time ghosts. Elena watched her own reflections mimic her gasp, just out of sync. The delayed copies looked startled as though awakening. Prima gestured, and those after-images detached, coalescing into translucent figures who drifted up like lanterns. They burst silently against stars. "The debt dissolves," Prima said, voice thin. She swayed. Elena caught her. "What did you do?" "Gave them horizon." Morning painted pink arcs across peaks. A chill set into bones not meant for mountain nights. Prima's pulse fluttered like hummingbird wings. Elena wrapped them both in the emergency blanket from her pack. They dozed against granite. When Elena woke, Prima was gone. Tracks in snow light, deliberate circled the clearing, then vanished to the cliff. No sign of fall, no body, only echoes of wind answering itself. Elena's scream ricocheted, returning seconds late. The delay ached. In the following weeks, authorities evacuated the plaza, erected steel shells around the maze, then around the shells when new mirrors sprang inside. International committees debated orbital demolition. Elena crossed borders under aliases, searching mountain monasteries, coastal caves, abandoned observatories, a natural mirror. Prima remained mythic, a footnote in conspiracy threads, the first duplicate lives. Meanwhile, duplicates inside camps decayed. Some stopped speaking as though language expired. Some accelerated, moving in jerks until muscle ruptured. Officials loosened restrictions, releasing mild cases, hoping assimilation might stabilize them. Society adjusted. Offices hired duplicates for night shifts. Coupled incorporated third selves as emotional translators. Insurance forms added a checkbox for echo germinator existence. The world wobbled, but did not topple. Elena returned to graduate studies, focusing on chronotopology. In seminars, she spoke of after-image debt, lantern trails, and the ethics of self-multiplication. Many dismissed her as poetic, yet she published a paper on temporal drag and nonlinear reflected manifolds, embedding Prima's lessons and equations. Citations accumulated. One evening, 2 years after the maze appeared, Elena lectured at a symposium in Kyoto. Afterward, a woman approached, tall, copper-skinned, with Elena's eyes only brighter. "Prima?" Elena breathed. The woman shook her head. "Not the one you lost. But I remember her." Maze duplicates share a knot of memory. She offered a black stone, polished to luster. "She asked me to give you horizon." Elena held the stone. Its surface reflected her face, delayed by a single blink. Tears surged. She understood. Horizon was not vanishing, but expansion, the line where sky kisses earth, yet remains distant, beckoning. On the flight home, Elena pressed the stone against the window. Clouds mirrored softly across it. lagging, overtaking, forever chasing themselves. She imagined a world where every person might slacken their reflection's leash, let their doppelgangers scout the path ahead, then return and whisper what they'd learned. Perhaps that world had been born the morning the plaza fell silent. Perhaps it lived already, hidden behind each pane of glass. Back in her apartment, she set the stone on her desk. Night lines of the city glimmered. She raised her hand. The stone's mirror raised its hand a moment later. For the first time since the maze emerged, Elena did not feel haunted by the lag. She felt accompanied. 2 beats to every rhythm. A syncopation promising room for growth. She whispered into the room, unsure which self would answer. "I'm ready to step ahead now." Outside, wind stirred awnings, their flapping echoes arriving fractionally late, like applause that travels a great distance before enfolding its performer. The city listened, refracted, and breathed back